Viewers of Stranger Things are, of course, aware that there have been many creatures from the Upside Down that have attempted to kill Eleven and the Hawkins gang. There's no denying that some of these creatures are stronger than others, and some even have psychokinetic powers on par with those of Eleven. So in what order are the Upside Down creatures ranked based on their abilities? Keep watching this video to find out. Firstly, some Stranger Things characters were set up just to die. First on the list is Eddie Munson. The town suspects Eddie Munson of killing Chrissy Cunningham because of his love of heavy metal and Dungeons & Dragons. Eddie Munson was first presented in Season 4 as a high school pariah. He goes into hiding, aids the group in defeating Vecna in the Upside Down, and then is slain by Demobats. Eddie Munson's sympathetic narrative and actor Joseph Quinn's undeniable charisma won many over. Sadly, he was killed off for the plot, like many other new characters that the show introduced in later seasons. It was a shame because Eddie's remarks about trying to graduate and find salvation caused a heartbreaking scenario that profoundly impacted the audience. Next on the list is Billy Hargrove. In Season 2, Billy made his television debut alongside his estranged stepsister Max. Billy eventually succumbs to the Mind Flayer's influence and begins to plot Eleven, Max, and their friends' destruction. With his self-sacrifice in defeating the Mind Flayer, he partially earned their forgiveness. Max's character is exceptionally nasty because of his bullying and racist actions. Hence, Billy's relationship with Max is what makes him the most robust character. Although his passing may not have affected many viewers, Max's character needed his death to help her deal with her guilt from the past and change the way she interacts with those who love her. Third on the list is Bob Newby. Early in Season 2, a new character named Bob Newby was introduced as Joyce's new partner. He's a nice guy who helps Will and Joyce a lot as they work to protect him from learning the Upside Down secrets. Sadly, after helping to restore electricity to Hawkins' lab by resetting the breakers, Bob was ultimately destroyed by the Demodogs. Viewers can predict Bob's story arc when he mentions wanting to be a superhero for his family. Unsurprisingly, he ended up as Demodog Chow since he wasn't a vital component of the group engaged with the Upside Down. Since Season 1, many Stranger Things viewers have also been rooting for Joyce and Hopper to start dating, and Bob's survival would have been a barrier to their relationship. Next on the list is Barb Holland. When Stranger Things debuted initially, Barb was one of the show's first victims. This friend of Nancy's is one who disapproves of her developing romance with Steve. She unwillingly goes to Steve's party and cuts her hand on a can of beer, causing the Demogorgon to enter their world and kill her. Barb is the ideal example of bait at the beginning of the series because Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve are prompted by her disappearance to look into local paranormal activity. Last on the list is Benny Hammond. Benny Hammond was the first person Eleven encountered after she was able to flee Hawkins' laboratory. When Eleven breaks into his business, the owner of Benny's Burgers quickly grows sympathetic and makes sure she has food before calling the cops to send her home. However, as a witness to Eleven's presence, the agents at his eatery kill him. When Benny acknowledges Eleven for the first time, like a human being in Stranger Things, one of the worst deaths occurs. He identifies a young child who is terrified and in need of some help beyond her outward appearance and exceptional abilities. Naturally, caring for her right away following her escape would be an overly simplistic plot, so the villains of the series had to get rid of him. All Upside Down creatures in Stranger Things ranked by their power. The 8th most powerful creature is D'Artagnan. Dustin briefly had D'Artagnan, also known as Dart, as a pet. D'Artagnan was an inhabitant of the Upside Down. Initially, D'Artagnan was a young member of the Demogorgon-related species that ultimately went by Demodogs. Compared to some of the other Upside Down beings, D'Artagnan wasn't as dangerous. In the end, he did consume Muse, Dustin's cat. Dart does not attack Dustin, saving his life in a later episode of the series when the group is in danger and under attack by other Demodogs. After this, the Flayer promptly killed him. Thus, he never had an opportunity to develop his abilities, although while he was still alive, he was the least threat to the Hawkins gang. Next is the Hospital Monster. The Hospital Monster was a nether creature generated from the Flayed and the Mind Flayer's remains, composed of human bones and cartilage. It was hard to outrun because of its ability to reconstruct and reposition itself so that it could pass through windows and under doors. Eleven wasn't able to kill it, but she was able to batter it into submission to the point where it was forced to flee via the sewers. It was then reabsorbed into the Mind Flayer and its various incarnations. The 6th most powerful creatures are the Demobats. Vecna is closely linked to the Demobats, which are believed to be his inventions made using resources and abilities he had access to in the Upside Down. They are flying, Vecna-controlled predators who stalk stalk and hunt their prey. The Demobats eventually swarm and kill Eddie Munson, despite Steve Harrington's best efforts to repel a handful of them, proving their strength comes in numbers. They might not be the strongest enemies individually, but when they attack together, they provide a very difficult threat. Next is the Flayed. The Flayed obtains its power from the Mind Flayer, like other creatures from the Upside Down. The Hawkins residents who were possessed in the summer of 1985 are referred to as the Flayed, including men, women, children, and animals. After they had taken control of him, Billy Hargrove eventually became one of them. Most of their strength, which allowed them to entrap practically anyone they set their minds to, came from the Mind Flayer. Despite being extraordinarily strong, their bodies were subsequently melted down and repurposed for new creatures, namely the Spider Monster. Next, we have the Spider Monster. The Spider Monster was created to kill Eleven and her companions and take over Hawkins. It was made from the melting remains of the Flayed and acted as a human vessel for the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer supplies the Spider Monster with most of his power, making him extremely powerful and challenging to defeat. In the end, Eleven and her friends were only able to flee because of Billy Hargrove's sacrifice. The Spider Monster was swiftly killed when Eleven closed the portal, allowing the Mind Flayer to supply it with power. We are now heading into the top 3 most powerful Upside-Down creatures. The third most powerful Upside-Down creatures are the Demogorgons. One of the first species to supposedly make it out of the Upside Down and into Hawkins was a Demogorgon. They are under the Mind Flayer's control and are only motivated by impulsive aggression. Although Dart was an exception partly because he trusted Dustin, they are believed to be violent at all phases of their life cycle and have different life stages. When they take on their full form, they develop a violent nature and a hunger for human flesh. In the first season, only Eleven and her psychokinetic skills were able to stop them because they were powerful enough to kill practically everybody in their path. Since then, it has come to light that they have a few limitations, including a weakness to fire, but they've also developed several strengths, such as limited psychokinetic powers and portal opening abilities. The second most powerful Upside-Down creature is the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer has existed in various forms over its lengthy and ambiguous existence. When Henry Creel first saw it in 1979, it resembled a storm-like entity with living components but no discernible consciousness. Will Byers was Creel's first victim when he took on the form of the Mind Flayer in an attempt to take over Hawkins in 1984. When someone like Henry Creel takes control of the Mind Flayer, which may not have control over its own entity, it becomes invincible. It can command the majority of Upside-Down creatures and summon an army, demonstrating its strength. The most powerful Upside-Down creature is Vecna. Unquestionably, Vecna, aka Henry Creel, is the most potent being to emerge from the Upside Down. Even if he was technically born a human in Hawkins, he was escorted by Dr. Brenner to Hawkins' laboratory after becoming aware of his psychokinetic skills. This is where he was designated 001, the first human test subject of the trials. A young Eleven dispatched Vecna through a gate to the Upside Down, where he assumed control of all the creatures, including the Mind Flayer, to do his bidding. The Hawkins group does its hardest to stop Vecna's reign of destruction. Still, they are unsuccessful, and until the final season airs, we won't know what will happen to Vecna's abilities and plans. That brings us to the end of this video. Which of the Upside-Down creatures do you find terrifying? Also, what other series would you like us to feature? Let us know through the comment section. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.